This is a $70 camera I bought off of Amazon. Today I'm going to test it out and see if maybe it's a decent camera or honestly if it even turns on. What's going on, everybody? My name is Jordan Pomano. Welcome to another video, and if this is your first time checking out the channel, thank you. Alright, I'm excited about this. So I was doing some late night Amazon purchasing, just buying random stuff, and I came across some cameras, and as I was looking into these cameras and kind of going down the wormhole of Amazon searching, I was like, what if I can find a really cheap camera? Like, what's the cheapest camera that Amazon sells? Then I came across this camera. It says that it shoots 1080p, 30 frames a second, but it also says that it shoots 120 frames per second at 720. So immediately I was like, let's buy this camera and test it out. Let's see if we can get a decent image on it, because I mean, if you look at the product image, it has a really cool mount, and obviously that's not what's gonna come from this camera, but I'm really excited to dive into this thing and see if I can make it look decent. All right, so here are the main features. We have a 24 megapixel sensor. It doesn't say the sensor size, but it looks incredibly small. It says it shoots 1080p at 30 frames a second. I'm guessing it doesn't do 24 frames a second, because why would a $70 camera do that? IR night vision, which is kind of a standard for like these handy cam style cameras, so I'll test that out just for fun. And it supports external microphones, which is great because I have a feeling that the microphone in this is going to be absolute dog crap. Low speed, which I would imagine is slow motion. Motion detection, I don't know why you would need that. Time lapse, self-shooting, and continuous shooting. So it shoots stills and video, which all of these cameras kind of do. You know, growing up, we are familiar with these handy cams. It's kind of like what your parents buy, and then you use them as a kid to shoot your own home movies and stuff. At least that's what I did. But they were never this cheap. I mean, even back in the day, they were hundreds of dollars. So the fact that this only costs 70 bucks has me a little skeptical. There's a bunch of different options on Amazon. You can type in cheap camcorder on Amazon, and you're gonna get a bunch of different options. 63 bucks, $99, $56, and they all shoot 1080, 2.7K. I think I've seen a couple 4K, but again, if you're gonna shoot a 4K camera for 60 bucks, it's probably not gonna have a lot of frame rates or be usable. That's kind of the gist of this camera. It was $69.98, and honestly, I don't even know if this thing's gonna turn on. I have not opened this camera since I received it. I wanted to get my initial impressions on camera because I honestly don't know what to expect. We have just basic packaging. We have the camera in a little carrying case, and then 2 batteries, which I don't know if these batteries are gonna last long or not. We will find out. Manual, remote control, and the camera itself. Tiny. This is honestly way smaller than I was expecting. I guess it's kind of a normal size for like a handy cam. Honestly, it looks like a fake camera. It looks like a prop camera or like a toy camera that you buy at the Dollar Tree. Screen, it does flip, so you have like a little vlogging setup. That's kind of cool. Power mode, it's very simple. Like, they gave you what you need for it to be functional, and that's it. Now this thing only has digital zoom, meaning the lens on here, which is 36 millimeter lens. Oh wait, sorry, 7.36 millimeter lens. So with that tiny little sensor, I mean, that's honestly like, I don't even know what the math is for that, but it's pretty zoomed in. So when you zoom in with this camera, it's all digital. You're not getting any optical zoom, which, I mean, what do you expect out of a camera that's this cheap? All right, so as far as settings go, it's at 1080p. What I'm really interested about this camera is that it shoots 120 frames a second. The fact that a camera this cheap even has that option, no matter if it's gonna be crappy or not, is pretty cool. So what I'm gonna do is test this camera out and see if I can get any sort of cool video with it. I'm not expecting much out of it, but I'm gonna really try and get the most out of it. So with the camera set up, I began filming some test shots, and immediately I was unimpressed. It looked pretty much how you would expect a $70 camera to look. Next up, I wanted to test the low light and infrared mode, and it yielded some pretty terrifying looking results. Not to mention my cat looked like she was possessed by a demon. And I could already tell that this is not a proper vlogging camera because it's so freaking cropped in that my head is barely in frame, and I'm like stretching out as far as I can trying to record this. I don't even know if the audio is working. Hopefully it is. Now this camera wasn't ideal for vlogging at all, but I didn't want to give up just yet. I knew there's going to be a way where I could conveniently create something to turn it into a vlog style camera. Alright, so I think I figured out the vlogging issue before. It was too close to my face, it wasn't even focusing. But I think just with the small selfie stick, something really short and convenient, I'm able to get a pretty decent vlog image here. I have the camera with the Rode mic on it too, so it should sound a little better, but I'm glad I figured this out. I think that this is definitely practical. You can take this into a lot of small areas, maybe a small liquor store. Okay, I'm just kidding. There's no way I could vlog with this thing. Alright, so I just set this up on a tripod. I'm really curious because I feel like I can't really see what it actually looks like. I mean, without checking out the footage at least. I can't really get a good read of what the monitor looks like because the monitor just looks absolutely terrible. So it has a micro HDMI port in here, and I'm gonna plug that in and then hook up a monitor to it and see if maybe it looks better than I think it does. Alright, so this is looking really bad, at least from what I can tell here. It's it looks terrible. It looks like really like a home video. It kind of looks like a camera that came out in 2005. And just a little comparison between these two cameras. I'm recording 1080 at 30 frames a second into the $70 camera, and I'm recording 1080 at 24 frames a second into the EOS R. So as far as the dimension of, or the resolution of the video, they're exactly the same. They're both 1080, but you can probably tell that they are wildly different because the sensor in the $70 camera is the size of a peanut, and this is a full frame sensor. So there's a bit of a discrepancy there, but this looks pretty bad. Now that we've seen what this looks like in a studio setting, let's take it outside, and I really want to test out that 120 frames a second. All right, so I figured out how to set this up. 720p, 120 frames a second in a $70 camera, which honestly, why would they do that? Maybe it's a selling point. Anyways, I'm gonna do a little slow motion montage. I'm gonna film a bunch of stuff, but before I do that, I need to set this up so that we can get some cool footage. And what better way to set this camera up than to balance it on a Ronin, even though it's about half a pound and I had to put some weights on it to make it work. $70 camera on a gimbal, major overkill, but when it comes to shooting 120 frames a second, you cannot take that lightly. So overkill is right, and not even a Ronin was going to be able to fix the experience I was about to have with this footage. That was really bad. Yeah, I wasn't expecting the 120 to be good at all, but I figured maybe it's usable. You should figure that this camera is not going to be good. And I was going to give it the benefit of the doubt of, you know, of course 120 frames, you know, you shouldn't test that. Of course it's going to be crappy. It's completely unusable in my opinion, even outside where it's bright. And also 1080, just the whole camera's bad. This thing is not a good camera. It is a literal potato. And this video has kind of failed in a sense because I was thinking, you know what? I'm a real filmmaker. I'm gonna make this look good or usable. And honestly, there's no point to it because for $70 you can get so much more. With that said, let's do the same camera test with the Hero 3 Plus, which is like 80 bucks online right now. This camera came out a couple of years ago. It was like 2013, 2014. And this has 120 frames at 720 and it shoots 4K. And I know it's much better than the potato camera. And also I have iPhone 10. I'm gonna throw these on the Ronin and we're gonna do the same test just to show you that if you were to buy a camera used for that same amount of money, you can get a heck of a lot more of a camera. All right, so since that camera test failed miserably, I hooked up some older cameras. I have the Hero 3 here, which goes for like 80 bucks right now. So the same price basically as this potato camera. And then the iPhone 10, which came out in, I want to say 2017. So it's not that old, but still it's not the newest iPhone. And I'm going to run 720p 120 frames a second on each because that's what they shoot. So it's going to be, in theory, the same as this, but let's see if it looks much better. After a few minutes of balancing this entirely ridiculous Ronin rig, it was time to see if these cameras could outperform the potato camera. Yeah, this footage is night and day. I mean, this camera, again, same price as that $70 camera on Amazon, just used, a couple years old. The image quality in this versus this camera is just, it's just insanely different. I mean, this wasn't supposed to be a GoPro video or a, you should buy this camera instead, but if someone is looking to buy a camera for under $100, buy a used GoPro. This thing on eBay, I think was like $69. If you want to get all the accessories and everything, I bet you can get a whole used package for $100 or maybe even less. But this thing shoots 4K, it shoots great 1080, it shoots 720 120 frames a second, and as you can see in this video, it's actually clear, it actually focuses, unlike the potato camera. And I'm comparing this to the potato camera because they're probably the most comparable in the fact that they both have a fixed lens, they both have like auto settings. This is really just like a point and shoot, start, stop, record type of thing. Same with the GoPro. I mean, you're not adjusting focal length or focusing your lenses or anything like that. It's really, you know, it's an action cam, so it's a start and stop situation. But this is gonna give you so much more than this for the same price. So I don't know why you would even be in the market for a $70 camera like this, but for whatever reason you are, go with the GoPro for sure. But that's it for this video. Honestly, I didn't really know where I was headed with this video. I think originally I was hoping that this camera would look decent enough to where I could like really test it and try and get a decent image out of it, and I couldn't. I have failed with this experiment. I will be returning this. I don't recommend buying it, but I hope you had fun. I had fun trying to balance all these cameras on that Ronin and really just see how they all look at the same resolutions. It's pretty crazy how different of an image you get, even though it's all the same specs. It really comes down to the sensor and the type of camera it is. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, be sure to subscribe. I'm trying to get those numbers up as we post more videos like this. And let me know in the comments too if you want to see me test out some more ridiculous cameras or any sort of camera gear like that. It's pretty fun to do, so I'd be down to do more of them. But until the next video, I'll see you all later. I'm gonna go return this.